Hey, good morning. This is Pastor Sue, and welcome to this week's edition of Patio Ponderings. We're in season 2. I think this is episode 6. So glad you joined me. Today, my patio is the beach and boat landing on Prior Lake that's not too far from our home. And so one of the things we've been talking about within the 10 Commandments series that we're doing is keeping the Sabbath. And so I wanted to come down here this morning because this is one of the places I Sabbath with my kayak. That's something new for me this year, and I found it to be incredibly restful and relaxing. And so this lake and the river by our cabin are my favorite places to take it out so far. And here's the thing I've specifically been thinking about Sabbath this week is not only are we called to keep the Sabbath, to take rest, but we're called to make sure that those around us do as well, that our household, the people that work for us, even our animals, the immigrants among us is what the verse tells us, that we're supposed to extend this gift that God gives us to all those around us. So that's what I've been thinking about this week is how do we do that? How do we share the gift of Sabbath with others? And for me, as I've been thinking about this, the first question that I've been pondering is who are those around us in our world that don't get Sabbath? That maybe don't have the agency or the control over their lives or schedules that allow them to make the choice to follow the Sabbath or not. And I think there's a full spectrum. On the one hand, I can think of really individual examples like new parents who are trying to work and learning to be parents for the first time, and they're not sleeping and life's just crazy and it's really hard to take a break. On the other end of the spectrum, I think of broad groups of people who maybe don't get to take Sabbath. I think of people who are living in poverty and they have to work overtime, they have to work 2 or maybe 3 jobs to put food on the table, to pay for shelter, to pay for their rent. Human trafficking is still an issue in our country in different ways, either for domestic labor or sex workers. Those people certainly do not get to take Sabbath. So we've got this whole range of people in our world, in our society, that don't have the agency to take Sabbath, and we're called to help in that. So just thinking about that, and how can we help those individual cases in our lives? How do we help systemically for people in poverty or other situations? And I think it's about just doing what you can, having the influence you can within your sphere of your world. So, it can come from just individual care of people, helping with childcare, helping with caregiving responsibilities, or it can come with advocating for policy changes in our world that just make this a better place to live, so that we don't have people oppressed by poverty and oppressed by human trafficking and other issues. So there's one example that I've heard in the last few weeks that I want to share with you of extending. It's not called Sabbath in this world. It's coming out of the corporate world and out of they're dumping rock down there. Did you hear that? It's coming out of our corporate world and out of our corporate retail world. And so they're not calling it Sabbath, but it certainly fits with what we consider Sabbath to be. And it's coming out of the company called REI, which is a major outdoor sporting goods retailer. And they have made the announcement that across the board, across their company, they are going to pay their employees to have days off, not just for Thanksgiving, but the day after Thanksgiving. They want their employees to rest, to get the kind of rest that I like, to be outside, outdoors, connecting with creation, connecting with God. And they want their employees to have time with their families. I think this is a bold move in our culture that is so materialistic, in which the dollar and money usually has the greatest say. To give up that day after Thanksgiving for retail sales, those Black Friday, that's one of the biggest shopping days of the year. To give that up, to let all their employees have some time off. I think that's a great example of somebody using their power, using their influence where they can, when they can, to give rest to others. So how might you do that? Where do you have power? Where do you have influence to give those around you time to rest? I'll let you ponder that. As always, I'd love to hear what you have to say, and we'll see you Sunday. Bye.